It's not exactly easy to live through a major hardship. Watching good people that did nothing wrong fall in the heat of battle, wondering why they were targeted, unknown as to what would come next. Luckily, there are those who would fight, forging rebellion starting with two. One forged with the will of rebellion, and the other ready to rise on wings of courage. Wakey wakey, wakey wakey, lore's done, it's time for the actual video! We've covered the archetype forged by the will of rebellion, now it's time for the wings of courage, the Raidraptors. Raidraptors focus around summoning so many birds you'd exceed the amount of pigeons outside Burger King, then exceeds them into the stronger birds capable of decimating the extra deck, particularly Fusion, because Fusion decided to start a war with Exceeds. Usually the Raidraptors bird up by having a soft once per turn to allow them to either send one to an early grave, knowing it's time for its funeral, and the others meant to special summon themselves, or summon others to the field like Raidraptor Vanishing Lanius. In every context you run 3 because of how soft once per turns work. Basically, if you play a monster and use its soft once per turn effect and summon another copy, that monster can also use its effect because it only said once per turn, not that specific card once per turn. Contrast it to hard once per turns where you can only use the effect of that specifically named card once per turn. Anyway, with this, you can normal summon Vanishing Lanius, special summon another of itself from the hand, then use that Vanishing Lanius to special summon another Vanishing Lanius from the hand, and then if you have an extra Raidraptor, you can summon that Raidraptor using the new Vanishing Lanius' effect. This isn't exactly ideal, but it's a nice upside for summoning more Xyz monsters, and if you have a Raidraptor that has an effect to special summon itself at hard once per turn, you can skip around this. Other options for burning up are the Tribute and Mimicry Lanius. Tribute sends Mimicry to the graveyard after its loved ones see it to its end, and if you decide to disturb it in its resting place, it'll throw a bird at you that would peck you to death, but it had no relation to Mimicry, so it just doesn't care. Mimicry can also increase the levels of Raidraptors by 1 to bring them up to 5 for rank 5, but only be ready to use that in very niche situations where you have 3 level 5s or 2 level 5s and plan on doing some silly things in the graveyard. On top of Vanishing, Tribute, and Mimicry, there is also Singing and Strangle Lanius, which special summon themselves if you control a dark monster, but Singing is limited to needing an Xyz monster to summon itself because the Xyz monsters just sing better, which make it more attracted to it. While it can full combo Ballistic in every fighting game known to man, Singing Lanius is only used in war to deploy a bird robot, Pain Lanius, which deals half the attack or defense of a Raidraptor, then special summon itself with the same level. And conveniently, because Singing Lanius is so good at rhythm games, it really doesn't have very high stats. Raider's Wing also fits in here, being a Mimicry Lanius that didn't get a funeral, spiteful at anything that isn't a bird. If you remember how to Phantom Knights, then you already know what Raider's Wing does, but if you do need a refresher, you can use an overlay unit from an Xyz monster to resummon Raider's Wing, but banish it when it leaves the field, and it's always treated as both a Raidraptor and a Phantom Knights. Unfortunately, the rest of the Raidraptors aren't exactly great. They're more focused around utility rather than, well, Xyz Summon Turbo, which Raidraptor does best. But there are the Skull and Heel Eagles if you want the only rank 3 in the deck, Fiend Eagle, which yes, can burn for a lot and gains attack because of Skull Eagle, but burn doesn't exactly show up on the Master Duel end board. There is also Fuzzy Lanius, which isn't part of the utility category and does special summon itself, but Fuzzy locks you into Raidraptor Xyz, so it can be demanding. But if you don't want to use Raidraptor Turbo, Nest can give you a free bird if you want, and Readiness can make sure if you brick, you can make your bird stay around and keep safe by banishing it. Apparently the birds also figured out how to use a mace and gain the power of Raptor's ultimate mace, and equip that boosts by 1000 attack to make the Pharaoh happy from having a current age and a not that trash Megamorph, but if you don't have that strong of a bird or no combos, it's a little bit of a brick. If you don't like your opponent being able to play the game, Raptor's Gust and Raptor's Phantom Knight's Claw give you the power of negation at spell speed 3, while Raidraptor Return gives you birds from the grave if your opponent is explosive and likes to blow up your birds. Raidraptors do have some convenience like Replica, which lets you summon another bird with the same name from the deck and prevent the one you want from being attacked, so it's either protection or free Xyz. If you do manage to bring out other Xyz monsters, you can channel their power through Raider's Unbreakable Mind, which, if you rank up Xyz Evolution, you can make something explode. If the Unbreakable Mind is broken from the emotional damage of Harpy's Feather Duster, then you get a free rank up magic. Raidraptor Call is also an option of convenience which summons another copy from the deck, but you're locked into Raidraptors, which makes it faster than Replica and easy to get out any Raidraptor Xyz as long as it's a rank 4. But if you plan on going into Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, then you're gonna have a harder time. If you decide to follow into the footsteps of the owner of the Raidraptors, Shea Obsidian, and have 3 monsters, you can overlay all 3 to let the Babby Birds soar on wings of courage. Talents ready for the rebellion! And Xyz summon the most mediocre but incredibly hype Raidraptor Rise Falcon! Rise Falcon is Shea's boss monster. If your opponent has a bunch of special summon monsters, you can use an overlay unit to steal all...
Hey Fade?
Excuse me.
Rise Falcon steals the attack of one monster.
What do you mean it's only one you have to target it? What happened to the anime effect?
The anime effect seems like overkill, being more of a large beater than anything. The OTK potential is cool, but the IRL effect offers more balance since you're not restricted to only attacking special summon monsters.
Balance my ass. If Konami made Runic, they can't afford to let Rise Falcon keep its anime.
I guess Konami just simply has something against Rise Falcon. You have to admit, those little runic fairies are pretty adorable.
I mean, at the very least, Rise Falcon has the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. The rest of the anime can't be much worse, and also let it keep its anime effect. Yeah, it's only one, but it can attack all special summon monsters on the field, so that's something. But it isn't that bad because it's a generic rank 4 needing 3 monsters, which is pricey, but the more overlay units, usually the better. If you disagree with my previous statement, you also have the option of Raidraptor Force Strix, needing only 2 monsters to make the opponent become the hunted instead, and gains attack for every bird on the field. Who gives a shit about that? Because if you use an overlay unit, you can add any winged beast from deck to hand, which can lead into a preference outside the archetype I use, Simorgh the Bird of Perfection, which isn't a Raidraptor Sharplanius, but yeah, sure. I mean, I'd rate it a 7 out of 10 bird, but I won't say it's a 10 out of 10. Simorgh in your hand, if you play any bird, you can normal summon Simorgh straight from your hand through its effect as an extra normal summon, and then when it is summoned, you can mill a separate copy of itself for a spell or trap that mentions Simorgh, which, in the case that we would use, would usually be Elborz, the sacred land of Simorgh. Elborz, when on the field, lets you normal summon an extra time as long as you have a wind monster. And while all Raidraptors are required to visit Hot Topics, Simorgh has enough pure bird in him to count as wind and dark at the same time, allowing for the extra bird. With Simorgh bolstering the power of your cards, you have 2 options to really continue. Stick to Xyz with a second Force Strix, or use Raider's Knight. Raider's Knight fits much better here with generic rank 4 being the main combo, and Arc Rebellion makes an appearance as the only dragon to respect the birds so much the birds crafted in cool armor. However, despite Shea not living to see the brains, the Raidraptors have to get their own Link monster from Konami, doing them dirty with Master Rule 4, Raidraptor Wise Strix. The summoning conditions to Link summon Raidraptor Wise Strix are 2 Dark Winged Beast monsters. Wise Strix, being the smartest Strix that Strixed, knows what bird seed to use when summoning any bird which could be used for a Raidraptor, but with some extra utility, Black Wings have Zephyros, which can summon itself from the grave by returning a face-up spell to your hand. Oh yeah, he also kicks you in the shins.
What?
Anyway, as soon as you recover and manage to summon a second Forstrix after playing Ystrix and add another bird like Singing Lanius, Ystrix gives you access to the real way the deck works. Rank up magic on drugs! If you remember Utopia, the options for different ranks wasn't exactly applicable, being mostly 5, 6, and the 112 that Utopia 4 skips to. Raidraptors have a bird for any rank you can think of. If you need a rank 5, you get Blaze and Stranger Falcon. Rank 6, we have a Falcon for that too. If you come down to the dealership of Bird Up, we also offer rank 7, 8, and 10 birds, perfect for making your enemy squeal. But wait, there's more. If you can convince Raidraptor Ystrix to stop playing League of Legends and touch some grass, we'll throw on a rank 12 with no down payment. If you submit yourself to the religion of Bird Up, you can harness the power the Japanese have access to, the rank 13. So don't fuck with us or say goodbye to your nuts, cause they're getting pecked off. Okay, before that, we need to talk about the rank ups, which are far between and not few. Starting with the Shea Classic Raptors Force, where if a monster is destroyed, you can rank up and exceed in the grave by 1 rank. It is not restricted to the one that went there. On paper, this could be good, but it relies on losing it during your turn, means you have to crash it into an opponent, or on your opponent's turn, hope they destroy your Raidraptor, which is unreliable. Never play this or its cousin. Speaking of its cousin, that is Rank Up Magic Doom Double Force, with the same activation condition as Raptors Force, but instead of just 1 rank, it doubles the rank. So off of the rank 6 or the rank 5s, you can get to the higher ranks very early, but it is still unreliable. The reason why these two are unreliable is because it relies on your opponent destroying your bird, which for your turn is absolutely pointless as you have to crash the Xyz bird for either a rank 5 or 8 if it's a rank 4, and if you set it for your opponent's turn, you can have a chance of it activating during the battle phase and specifically needs to go down by battle, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Progressing through and past Arc 5 doesn't use the battle phase to remove monsters unless you are Raidraptors with Absurd Attack, Utopia, or any other deck that uses the battle phase as its main trigger effect. Doom Double Force is even worse, as you have to use the monster destroyed by battle in order for its condition to be met, and not any Raidraptor in the graveyard, which is horrible when there's a way better option to achieve high-ranking Xyz monsters early. Battle traps are only slightly better than this, because at the very least, they usually require your opponent to attack, which you can do something with, although nowadays, battle traps are also kind of useless, because if your opponent has any way to destroy the battle traps, then you're just kind of screwed. The first rank up that is a good option is Revolution Force. On your turn, it's a rank up by 1 for a monster on the field, but on your opponent's turn, if you know they're using Xyz that like to bust all their overlay units at the slightest sneeze, it can take that monster with no overlay units and rank it up by 1, committing highway robbery for whatever bird you can summon as long as it's not a rank 8 or 10 that you steal. Raid Force is also up by 1 rank, but if you banish a Raidraptor from your hand and Raid Force from the graveyard, you can reuse any rank up that isn't itself letting you go again, but without locking into rank up Xyz evolution like Necro Vulture does. Astral Force, while not a Raidraptor card, could be used here for a rank up by 2, but it doesn't have any cool grave effects except for re-adding it to your hand, but instead of actually re-adding it to your hand, you just put it on top of your deck and draw it. But if you want to go up by 2, we have Skip Force. Perfect for the rank 6 or 8, as it can rank up by 2 ranks, and if you banish it from the graveyard, you can re-summon an Xyz monster in the graveyard, granted you can afford to banish a bird. For up by 2, there is also Soul Shave Force. It saps half your soul, but that power brings back a bird from the grave, and gives it so much power that as long as you rank up into a rank 6, 8, 10, or 12, Soul can Xyz summon it, turning a monster like Cyber Dragon Infinity or even Odd Eyes Raging Dragon into an honorary Raidraptor. Or as I call them, Raidraptor Dragon Infinity and Raidraptor Raging Dragon! Rank Up Magic Launch is also pretty good for rank 5s, but you do still need no overlay units for it to work, which is both good and bad with Raider's Wing, but if you don't have Raider's Wing, you're kinda screwed. And the last and most important rank up, Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force, which despite it being a Phantom Knights card,
Gotcha, bitch!
it is the best rank up in Raidraptors, as it is rank up by however many birds are in your graveyard, which when set by Wife Strix can be activated immediately despite being a quick play spell. Can reliably bring out whatever Raidraptor you want, or hell, even Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon. But Arc Rebellion would be a pretty big waste of it, as it's literally only a banish 1 for it. It can banish up to like 8. This is going to be assuming ranking up off the last, but using a Raptors Force with a Rise Falcon that got bonked can bring out Blaze Falcon, which if you use an overlay unit can destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls, and burn them for 500 life points for each. But if that wasn't your style, it can somehow, if it has an overlay unit, attack directly. If it does, it can blow up a card with too many missiles. If you don't want Blaze Falcon, you can always go Stranger Falcon, where if it's ranked up on, or the stupid way of Cross Xyz, you can use an overlay unit to blow up a card and deal damage equal to its attack. If Stranger does get hit with the bonking stick after staring at the lure lists, you can summon a Raidraptor from your grave and give Stranger Falcon to it as material. If Blaze or Stranger Falcon gets stolen, or you just have them there being kinda useless, you can seed ideas of Revolution to rank up by 1 into Revolution Falcon, which gives you options. First, if it has a Raidraptor, it can set any monster you pick on fire and deal half its attack points as damage. If you choose to use an overlay unit, it makes it so Revolution's attacks equal the amount of monsters your opponent controls, so it can keep mortaring. You think this isn't helpful, but if Revolution Falcon knows the opponent's monster was special summon, it can sentence it to death by explosion with no resistance. However, unlike Frollo, Revolution Falcon knows they've done insubordination and does the order legally, draining the opponent's attack points so the execution can't be stopped easily. If you didn't want to original Revolution Falcon, you can go the World War I route of Revolution Falcon Air Raid, which can rank up without a rank up, but by discarding it with a rank 5 or lower. And when it's summoned, it follows the tenets of Sniper TF2 and snipes an opponent's monster efficiently and burns for its attack as long as it's face up. That's all Air Raid does, but if it's destroyed, you can bring out Revolution Falcon with it as an overlay unit. Another rank higher, with wanting to cause a Discord raid, lets you bring out Arsenal Falcon, the million subscriber YouTuber who can use an overlay unit to call upon a member of their fanbase. Although, if it has its subscribers in the form of its overlay units, it can attack up to the number of overlay units, and if it's sent to the grave with a bird as material, you can cheat out a bird from your extra deck with it as material, which I have never used. By the way, subscribe, I really want to get higher than Arsenal Falcon in subscribers. And somehow its military tutorials do way better than my Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Going back to Revolution Falcon, if we decide that to stay in the game we have to keep pushing to the end, we can shave our soul to bring out Satellite Cannon Falcon directly from fucking SpaceX's team of Animal Evolution. But sadly, Elon Musk laid off that division, so I guess, like Twitter, that was a waste of money. Although, from being born from the depths of X, Satellite Cannon Falcon knows that the best way to kill a website is to not support it, and so destroys your opponent's spells or traps without giving them time to stop it. On top of this, Satellite Cannon Falcon can also use one overlay unit to dump all of it and its master's trauma onto the opponent's monster and take an entire end of an episode to pull off. However, this length of time is worth it, as if they fusion summoned, because they triggered your PTSD, you can dump all the reasons you fight onto your opponent up to the number of Raidraptors that are in your graveyard. Just make sure that's not an absurd amount by using Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force, so then we don't have to sit for half an hour or even an hour. Going up another 2 ranks, or using 4 Strix with 6 birds engraved, brings us to the ultimate bird of prey, Raidraptor Ultimate Falcon, the Tower of the Archetype. By tower, I mean you and your opponent can do nothing to affect it. You can prevent your opponent from playing the game during your own turn, and reduce the attack of an opponent's monster by using one overlay unit, or for free if you have a Raidraptor as material, which can double as a burn if you leave them with no monsters. Ultimate Falcon is the best Raidraptor, to the point it is cheated out by other decks for its absurd attack power. But Raidraptors is a monster to out, only outable by Galaxy Eyes, or ironically Rise Falcon, since just because ulti is unaffected doesn't mean Rise can't yoink its attack. Going up from Ultimate Falcon from the grave, because it's even unaffected by rank ups when we get to the final and biggest burb, Raidraptor Final Fortress Falcon. Final Fortress completely circumvents the banish from Phantom Knight's force by returning all Raidraptors from banish to the grave, letting you do it again without as much setup. And if you destroy anything with this beefy and also unaffected burb, you can banish an Xyz burb in the graveyard and attack again. This can be done twice per turn, so you can swing for game if your opponent has weak enough monsters. Although, if you use the Xyz birds as material, then it loses its immunity. Final Fortress Falcon is a really cool bird in its own right, but Ultimate Falcon is just way better, since Ultimate Falcon, being unaffected, can also turn off all your opponent's interaction, while Final Fortress Falcon just kinda keeps hitting them, and hitting them, and hitting them. It's like watching a demo night on a high kill streak. So remember when I said to add Singing Lanius when searching with the second Force Strix? No? Well, if you summon it after you set up the rank up, you can make a consistent Rusty for some Phantom Knights gameplay using Raider's Wing and Shade Brigading or Fogblade if you have the balls, and keep going for Raider's Knight, Arc Rebellion while you still have the Ultimate Falcon, bringing up a very big amount of high attack monsters. Fitting in as well is Time Thief Redoer, being a generic rank 4, and if summoned with Shade Brigadine activated turn 1, you can send a card back to your opponent's deck along with being able to let the Time Thief nope out of situations he doesn't like. Cyber Dragon Infinity can also get the title of Honorary Raidraptor for when you ignore the Strangulanius in your hand to act as the secondary, or hell, even primary negation Raidraptor has at its disposal. However, now it's time for the power we do not have. From the new set that came out with the Yubel support came Raidraptor support, boosting the deck to be even stronger than it was before and giving rise to a new Vulture and Lanius. Bloom Vulture takes a page from the sister archetype Lurlusk and summons itself and another Raidraptor to the field, with the best target being Raidraptor Noir Lanius, which after it's summoned can let you add a Raidraptor that's a different level from the target it chooses. It sounds alright, but usually it just adds the level 1 Pain Lanius. Common Extending isn't the only thing added, as now we have Raidraptor Roost, a continuous spell where after you summon from the extra deck, you can add a spell or trap from deck to hand, with the bonus of being a Pot of Avarice light with shuffling 3 banished or dead birds into the deck to get an extra draw. Roost also gives access to Raidraptor Barrage, allowing you to negate a card on the field if you have a Raidraptor Xyz monster, or just any monster if you have a regular Raidraptor, but it does let you target a Raidraptor in grave or banish to add to your hand, so that's pretty nice. I haven't really had a use for it yet, but it's still pretty good. However, the main piece of new support is Raidraptor Brave Strix. Wise Strix is other cousin, and it allows you to either set a Raidraptor spell or trap from your deck, or search a rank up for when you need it, being the main way to search Roost and get the best piece of support from the set, Rise Rank Up Magic Raidraptor Force. It only took 8 years, but we did it. The Raidraptors don't have any more gimmick forces. With the Raidraptor's Force, instead of normally ranking up with 1, you pick 1 Xyz monster on the field and another in the grave without a limit, so you can do a lot of them, and rank up adding the ranks together. With this, you gain easier access to the rank 13, the culmination of Rebellion, Raidraptor Rising Rebellion Falcon! Rising Rebellion Falcon, like its lower ranks Final Fortress and Ultimate Falcon, is unaffected by card effects, but with the added power of Satellite Cannon Falcon to blow up your opponent's field, but this time not ignoring the monsters. And if that's not bad enough, if you have 3 Raidraptor Xyz monsters with different names as material, you can also burn your opponent for the total attack of the monsters destroyed. And if that wasn't good enough, you can also use 3 overlay units to copy the effect of any Raidraptor Xyz monster in the graveyard, bringing it all the way back to the start of the Xyz chain to whatever effect you have on hand. Bringing us back to Shay using his old ace, Raidraptor Rise Falcon. With your newfound power, never stop fighting for what you believe in. Just know, if we have a common enemy, from Arise Heart, Mirror Jade, Kaleido Heart, Monadium, or Bestial, the Raidraptors will have your back as long as you have theirs. Unfortunately, the rest of the Raidraptors aren't exactly great. They're more focused around... Forkist? What? Is that gonna be a new fucking archetype? The fucking Forkists? The motherfucking Forkists are coming, everybody. Watch out, they got their own Dingirsu.